story that is coming in by the way of a banking or a financial app, the BOB World App, a world app launched by Bank of Baroda, which was in the news for all the wrong reasons. Bank of Baroda, there was an allegation on employees, or rather made by employees, to various newspapers, but more prominently, I remember in the middle of 2023, there comes a news item in Al Jazeera where some of the bank employees had spoken anonymously to Al Jazeera, where they said that we are being told to enroll more and more people on the BOB World app, the Bank of Baroda application, and they found interesting ways to do that. And one of the interesting ways was to get a phone number and link that phone number to an account, and then open an account on the BOB World app, and then de-link it, and then link it to another customer, and then once again start a new account on BOB World app. They were given hard targets, and they found a way to do that, which is a big scam, and it puts this data safety of a lot of customers of Bank of Baroda in question. The Bank of Baroda seemed to have admitted, well, maybe not so much as yes, we did wrong, but an investigation is now in order.
You're right, Shweta. I think July, if I'm not mistaken, bang in the middle of 2023, July is when this report comes out. And yeah, like you explained, I think what the employees were really doing was, in the back end, they would find a customer, a real customer on Bank of Baroda with a real account number and real money into that account. And in the phone number field in their back end system, they would put a number that is around them, a phone number that is around them, a working phone number which could receive an OTP. So what you would do is you would hard punch that phone number there and download the app or log into an already downloaded app using that phone number, receive that OTP, link the account, tick mark, app downloaded on the back end. Remove that phone number, put the previous phone number back, link that new phone number, your own or a family or relation or friend's phone number, into another account. Tick mark, app downloaded, customer onboarded. So I think a clever, mischievous way of meeting the targets. But the serious challenge really was that that there was this scam and this fraud going on across multiple branches. It wasn't restricted to one employee or one zone or one bank or one whatever. This was pretty much happening across the board. And initially, Bank of Baroda had denied these allegations and said that, no, we've got nothing to do with it. Our employees haven't done anything like this. But as it progressed, RBI came into picture, and RBI, in fact, told Bank of Baroda to stop onboarding fresh customers. And that is when Bank of Baroda had no choice but to, in some way, in a very measured response, slightly agree to the allegations and said that if there have been any lapses, we are going to fix them. And then as the story progressed, some heads rolled. I think the highest level of head rolling happened at a GM level and nothing beyond that. But I think, yeah, it really brought this whole question of KYC compliance into fore, and it got this whole question of then the RBI, in fact not the RBI, the auditors of Bank of Baroda now trying really hard to get employees across the board to come up with these consent forms of customers
and trace them back,
to customers. So basically customers, the forms where customers have either asked to be onboarded on the app by the bank or the bank employee, or the forms where customers have requested for a phone number change, and that phone number change is actually what led to this entire mess.
All right. So Krishna, where does the investigation stand at the moment?
Well, at this stage, all I can think of is that the investigations have already proven as to what exactly has gone down. The reason why is sitting here and understanding what exactly did the employees do to make sure that to show and meet their targets. The only fear is that how many other bank employees are doing this to meet their targets when it comes to the digitalization of their own accounts and their own banks and their own digital outreach to customers, Shweta.
All right. So some sort of acceptance there from Bank of Baroda. But I think eventually, what is a question that bank will have to further discuss, elaborate on, is to what extent people's data was compromised. So if I were a Bank of Baroda employee, Kartik, and if this were to happen to me, I would want to know what other information do bank employees have access to, and to what extent can they tamper with that information? Because this is essentially tampering with the information that I provide to the bank.
I think three broad areas of debate emerged from this entire Bank of Baroda scam. Number one, I think top of the chart there is basically the fact that there has to be layers and layers and layers of protection of customer data. So number one, I think banks across the board, not just Bank of Baroda, and this is where the regulator RBI needs to step in and see what are the processes being followed by all the banks operating in India to ensure that information pertaining to customers should not be accessible to bank employees, and even if it needs to be accessible, it cannot be edited by practically any employee who's sitting behind a desk in a bank. So this is debate number one, which I think needs a very, very stringent sort of new look into. The second issue that really emerges is the fact that targets, sometimes unrealistic as they may seem, need to be measured by people who occupy corner offices. And this is not restricted to the banking industry alone. This is restricted pretty much to every sector, every industry out there, where you need to know that the targets that you're assigning, if they're not realistic, your employees will find clever ways to retain their job. And I think the third equally important aspect that emerges from all of this is that if a scam of this nature unfolds, where does the buck stop? Is a ground level employee, a man sitting behind the desk, or at best the bank manager,
is that enough?
Is that enough for the heads to roll, or does the buck stop at a much higher level?
Absolutely. So Bank of Baroda, the Bob World app scam there, highlighting some grave issues when it comes to regulation of the banking system, but more so people, the information of an average person who is a customer of that bank. Perhaps a larger investigation needs to unfold, but also some measures, some checks and balances that need to be in place to ensure that customer data remains protected.